Here it is, the WTOP Huddle. We've got our cast assembled: Chris Cichon, Rob Woodfork, Dave Preston, and George Wallace. And it's been confirmed, I think, until the year 2025. We'll probably start a conversation with the quarterback when discussing the Washington football team. But it's also more than the quarterback. This is a team coming off another disappointing week. And yes, the quarterback change, we'll get into all that. Kyle Allen plays a couple of quarters. Alex Smith, just an amazing story, no question about it. But I'll just start it with, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is for this Washington football team. I've always said for years, and it's not genius, everyone says it, in so many ways, you only go as far on offense as your offensive line. This is an offensive line you're not going to get very far with if you're saying you need to establish a run, but it struggles with that, and you can't protect the quarterback, 8 sacks. So you can throw anybody back there. Joe Theismann, it doesn't matter at this point. Well, maybe that'll help because Theismann can run for his life and scramble. But the point being, it doesn't matter. They've got some core issues beyond the quarterback to deal with, and that's going to make it a challenge for this team, even against an 0-5 Giants team. And that is, of course, our stat of the week, that the Giants and Jets are both a collective 0-10 for the first time in NFL history. With that glorious note, we'll begin the conversation with Rob Woodfork and your take on all the proceedings that have been going from Ashburn to Landover and quarterback changes. And yes, amazing comeback by Alex Smith. Where's your head right now?
Well, my head is, first of all, just the aforementioned Jets and Giants. Those are the only teams that have fewer points per game than Washington is scoring this season. That's the company that they're keeping regardless of who's playing quarterback. And, you know, we were told that Kyle Allen was going to be this improvement over what we saw from Haskins. No, no, he's not. And it's great to see Alex Smith back out on an NFL field. We all know how hard he fought to get back there. But for him to take 6 sacks and for him to throw for about as many yards, 37, as he was sacked for, 31, that's ugly. That's terrible. And it's far beyond the quarterback. As you said, the offensive line is a mess. Even if you had the time to throw, who are you throwing to? It's like a 23 and under club of receivers that they've got there. And, I mean, the defense was supposed to be what was going to carry this team. And beyond that defensive line, a lot of question marks, and all of them being answered not in the affirmative this time. So, I mean, it's a bit of a mess there. And, we've been discussing this. What direction are they going in? Is this a rebuild, or are they trying to win the division? All of the fact that we're asking this question heading into week 6, boy, it doesn't spell good news for Washington going forward, even if the upcoming schedule is favorable.
Well, and again, I thought the commitment to Dwayne Haskins and the cutting of Adrian Peterson was the clear sign, as you pointed out in your NFL preview, Rob, that this was a rebuild. So, yeah, I think it's easy to pile on when things are not going well, and things are not going well. And so, and as I just talked about how bad the offensive line is dealing with the injuries, but I think that's part of the story, guys. We're trying to figure out what is going on with this team.
I think it's beyond it not going well. It's that it doesn't have to be going this badly. If they would have selected an approach before the season and then committed to that, then maybe we're not in the situation that we are, especially if you say, hey, let's win now and also build for the future. The two are not mutually exclusive, and I feel like this organization is treating it that way.
All right, Dave Preston, you got a smirk on your face. Bring me those words behind the smirk.
Well, it's like a screenwriter trying to write a comedy and a drama at the same time. Instead of getting a comedy or a drama, they're getting the worst of both. And so this franchise is spinning its wheels because, as we've talked this week and previous weeks, they don't know what they want to do, or at least there's the appearance of they don't know what they're trying to do, whether they're competing for 2020. If they were, then Adrian Peterson should be on this roster. If they're building for the future, then Dwayne Haskins should have started this past Sunday. Those are the two things that I have gleaned from this season. Again, I'm not in that building in Ashburn. I don't know the inner goings. That said, there are two things that are very difficult to mask in pro football. One is a subpar offensive line. Two is a toasty secondary. We saw both this past Sunday. The Burgundy and Gold ranked 31st in the league in rushing, 31st in the league in protecting their quarterback, as they've allowed 21 sacks so far this year. That's one of the reasons why Alex Smith threw for 4 yards per completion, because he didn't have a long time to set up. He was going to be thrown to the, he was going to be trampled if he didn't throw quickly. Same case with Kyle Allen, who did complete, I think, 9 of 13, but that was for 74 yards, so roughly 8 yards per pass attempt. They had one completion longer than 15 yards. Terry McLaurin is not only their only deep threat, but their only maybe even intermediate threat on this team at this time. That's a byproduct of an offensive line that I didn't think we'd miss Brandon Sheriff as much as we have, but you take away one guy of his caliber, maybe that's taking away 2, replacement level players on an offensive line. And that needs to be addressed in the coming weeks, because opposing defenses can sniff blood in the water. And they know when you have a bad offensive line, and they come at you like the Los Angeles Rams did this past Sunday. The secondary, 5 plays of 20 yards or more, 1 on each of the Rams' offensive possessions that led to points. Something's wrong back there. I thought that we'd have a much better defense with Jack Del Rio coordinating it as opposed to the previous coordinators. We haven't gotten that. They've allowed 30-plus points, or 30 or more points for 4 straight weeks. We thought that was going to be a strength coming into the season.
Spinning wheels, a strong comment. Cichon, you agree with that? It's a team spinning its wheels?
Yeah, I think Dave hammering the secondary is certainly something that needs to be done. They looked bad. I mean, there was one play, Cameron Curl, I get he's a 7th-round pick, but he didn't even look like he was giving effort trying to cover Cooper Kupp when he exploded for that big play. Late in the game, Ronald Darby, he got bailed out because Robert Woods dropped a surefire touchdown. Jared Goff starting off 9 of 9. The secondary was fooled by the play fake pretty much. If I'm the Giants and Joe Judge, I am running play fakes, play action almost every play, because the secondary and linebackers were not fast enough and not good enough to keep up with the Rams' skill guys. And even like linebackers, what do we have? Kevin Pierre-Louis covering Darrell Henderson one-on-one for that touchdown late. It's just schematically, I don't know what Jack Del Rio is doing on the defense. We can hammer the quarterback situation all we want, but I thought this defense lacked effort. Offensively, Wes Schweitzer delivered a big block in the first quarter that helped advance Antonio Gibson, but they were not taking any shots. I understand Alex Smith doesn't have the time, but the second the pass rush would come, he would start getting all jumpy in the backfield. He took no chances either. I mean, I said before this, right? Does anybody have anything good to say about the Washington football team? Anything positive? I damn sure don't really have much at all. I just don't.
All right, this is the episode where we celebrate the punter, Tress Way. I mean, that
Tress
was
Way.
Tress Way is the best thing to happen to them over the course of the last 5 years.
10 punts the other day.
But Chris brings up a good point. This is week 6, so we've got to find some silver lining or whatever. George, as always, you were at the game. Your take on quarterback, punter, everything, the parking lot attendant. What's your breakdown on this situation? Of the breakdown.
Well, if you must know about the parking lot attendant, we'll start there. For the first week, they actually did have someone parking the cars, directing us to our spot. Usually we just go in, but since they had fans there, they actually had people working there. So it's funny you bring that up about the parking lot attendant. Moving on.
There's a sign.
There you go. No, you know what? I agree about, we can talk about the offense all you want, but to me, the defense is the biggest disappointment. And the fact that Rivera called out Landon Collins the other day, I thought was good, about the 56-yard touchdown to Woods, and Apke took the wrong angle and Collins should have been back there. So the fact he's calling out his big money guys, I like that. Usually in the past you'd hear a coach say something like, well, we'll talk to the people involved and we'll deal with it behind the scenes. But he's calling them out just like he's been doing it with the quarterback. So I have no problem with that. I have a big problem with them giving up 30-plus points. I get it. Sometimes it's field position and things like that, but the defense has not lived up to it all. And you have all these guys up front that talk about they're sick of losing and they want to do this and that. The guys up front, they're not – other than the pressuring of Carson Wentz in week 1, what have we seen from the defensive line as of this point? So to me, that's the biggest concern. The quarterback situation, look, as Ron Rivera told colleagues, JP Finley at NBC Sports Washington, he said, look, he's had 11 weeks. It wasn't just a 4-week thing. He's been with them 11 weeks now. He figured he had enough time. So the stuff going on behind the scenes is all true from everything that I have heard as well, from bragging about the stats the other day, that win over Baltimore. He's just not there yet. And guys are just They're sick. I don't know if anybody went to the head coach and said it, but I think Rivera can see things for himself, and I think he kind of gets the feeling of the team that, coupled with what he's seen and what he's heard behind the scenes, he's just had enough. It's not his guy. It's just not. I never was from the beginning. Dan Snyder wanted it with the last coaching staff. You know, as I mentioned last time, Kyle Smith was on this staff last year, did not want him. He's still in that building. So I think Rivera's figured it out right now, and Haskins is, you know, he's not going to play another down for this team.
Well,
I
George,
think go ahead, Rob.
No, I just wanted to ask George. The question then is, why start him out the gate? Why not go to Kyle Allen? You have every excuse in the book. You say Kyle Allen was with me in Carolina. He knows the offense. We didn't have a whole offseason. So this is a year for Dwayne to learn, both from the new quarterbacks coach and new offensive coordinator. He can learn from Alex Smith. He can learn from Kyle Allen. He can do all this learning and drinking all this knowledge, and then we play him in 2021, or at least have him compete for the job. Why throw him out there then if he's not your guy?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about that too. And part of me thinks maybe that, you know, he was giving him a chance, and he knew what this season could be. Like you talked about, you know, the rebuilding type thing. Let's give Dwayne no offseason, no OTAs. Let's let him work through training camp, see what he can do through the first quarter of the season. And if I'm not seeing it, I'm not seeing it. He says he tries to be positive, to kind of be positive for Dwayne and the team. And I get that. You're not going to come out and trash him in August 31st. But maybe that was it. He gave him a shot to try it and see if he could work with him, and Scott Turner could work with him, and knowing that the owner basically drafted this kid. But look, you know, he didn't have a first-round grade on him back in Carolina either. So I'm not surprised by it. But, I mean, Rob, I don't know. What do you think? That's just kind of what I'm thinking. That's how that went down.
Yeah, and given that, though, he didn't have to, as Rob pointed out, didn't have to name him the starter. And also, I think it is, again, I think, George, your point is valid that clearly something else in terms of the evaluation process is triggering this, and that is part and parcel with any team, any head coach. They see what we really don't get a chance to see. But having said that, from afar, and why it still bothers me that he got benched, because I think we've lost him now at this point, a first-round pick essentially, is that there were special circumstances with this offseason, with the lack of OTAs. The typical, typical training camp. And I bring that up because that's something Alex Smith, a veteran, brought up, that, you know, he was a little concerned going into the game because he didn't have the type of offseason. And obviously his is a whole different situation to some degree, but he pointed out there was nothing regular about this offseason. So that still bothers me about, you know, Dwayne Haskins not getting more time, but I'm not in meetings and practices and to seeing. Any other comment from the crew here on that subject, because I know when we get going on that, we could spend the next 3 hours.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Dave.
Nope.
Even with all the issues, the Burgundy and Gold are still just one game behind Dallas for the NFC East lead, and the Cowboys have a quarterback situation of their own with Dak Prescott done for the year. So, oh my.
And our underdogs to a winless team on Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think the big question is what is going on with Washington that we don't know about? Because it seems like there is a piece of information missing here, and not even just pertaining to the Haskins thing. It's the change of direction from we're going to play a bunch of young guys and we're building for the future to, oh my God, now it's time for us to try and compete in this division that is horrible and that nobody really thought was going to be a world beater to begin with. So it feels like there's a direction other than Ron Rivera that's at play here.
Well, and again, it gets to everything, starting with the timeouts that we did such hand-wringing. Everyone did hand-wringing. You know, why isn't he playing to win the game and using every possible timeout? And then kind of the narrative was that it's about the future. There's no need to worry about things now. Now, all of a sudden, there is time to worry about, and the future suddenly did become now with this Washington football team. At least that's what the appearance is. Somebody brought up the $1 million question. What gives Washington fans reason for optimism? This is a team that showed resilience and did get that win over the Eagles, whether they were injured or not. That's still a quality win. Chris, you want to jump in there? Anybody want to jump in on why Washington fans beyond Tress Way should be optimistic?
Yeah, I'll just mention one real quickly, because when I was going through all of the negativity and pointing out some of all the bad things they were doing, I forgot to mention Chase Young He bull rushed one play in the first half that led to that Washington interception. He made the difference, as you mentioned, in the Philadelphia Eagles game. I think we have a talent in Chase Young that can be compared to the likes of an Aaron Donald over the course of the next couple of years. It's just we need other guys like Jonathan Allen, who I thought got lost at times this past weekend, to step up and take some of that pressure so Young's not getting double teamed and taken out of plays. But he has proven that he can be a difference maker for this defense and make quarterbacks uncomfortable and make them make mistakes. So that's at least something that I saw, and I was like, all right, we got something here.
All right, George, you obviously agree, right?
Yeah, I do. I was mentioning about the Jonathan Allen. There was one time in the press box, somebody literally said, "Is Jonathan Allen even playing on this field today?" So, that's not a good sign. And I mean, those guys need to be better. Chase Young, you're right. I mean, he made his presence felt immediately, Chris, as soon as he was back, first couple plays, first couple drives the other day. But they just need to be better, especially with Matt Ioannidis out now. All we keep talking about was Aaron Donald last week, and you would think that these guys would be so fired up to try and prove a point, Allen and Daron Payne and Tim Settle and those guys. But, especially against a Rams team that wasn't running the ball pretty well, running the ball well coming into the game.
Preston pensive look is back. What are you pensive about, Dave Preston? I can't even say it.
You hate to think, because we've seen this story before where we've seen promising players come into Ashburn, promising coaches come into Ashburn, and it doesn't work out for them and their careers leave in tatters. And so hopefully Chase Young, they're able to build around him as opposed to a sagging defense and a sagging team drags him down, because you hate to see a talent like that be wasted. I think LeVar Arrington was a player of a generation ago who everybody thought, okay, this guy is going to be the next big thing. He had a slew of defensive coordinators early in his career. Things just never really worked out. I think that if Marty had stayed, he would have found a way to make him into a difference maker. And instead, LeVar Arrington became a player who was one of the great what ifs of Redskins. Yes, they were the Redskins at the time of Washington football team history. And you'd hate to see Chase Young go down a similar path, but the way things are going with, we don't know whether or not they're going to try to win this year or whether they're rebuilding. We don't know which quarterback is the best fit. We don't know what the scuttle is from the locker room. You hate to see Chase Young's future, but we've seen it previously with other players.
And worse than that for LeVar Arrington, he ended up in radio. So, I mean, boy.
Eating our cheese.
But I mean, along those same lines, I think Terry McLaurin is a guy who's in a situation where, and his position is actually more dependent upon whatever the cluster is at quarterback. So if he's doomed to play on bad teams, playing alongside bad quarterbacks, even if he does like Dwayne Haskins from their time together in college, I mean, that would be a real bummer, because he seems like a great talent. He's definitely turning into the steal of last year's draft, and if he ever gets an opportunity to play with a quarterback who's competent and capable of playing at the NFL level, then I just think he could be one of the special ones.
All right. They play the Giants this week. There's no way they lose the Giants, right? I mean, I'll go ahead and say right now.
There's a way. There's a way. They have Chase Young because they lost to the Giants twice last year.
Well, that's true. So I'll just go. Maybe I'm just trying to bring some sunshine into this from and plus I've picked against the Washington football team every week so far, which probably is not the meaning of genius either. But Washington, I think, finds a way to get this done against the Giants. Am I being over optimistic? What's your view of this weekend?
I think it's a case of stoppable force against movable object. The Washington football team, 32nd in the league at moving the chains on third down. The New York football Giants defense, 32nd in the league at getting off the field on third down. It's not going to be pretty. I think that the NFL probably wishes they could have shoved this to the 9:30 a.m. window, to be honest. But this is going to be one of those gut check weeks where you see, what sort of team we have. And you hope that there's the right mindset in Ashburn. We've seen a lot of different signals over the last couple of weeks. And hopefully 4 quarters of Kyle Allen will provide the difference, because the New York Giants are as much of a mess, if not more, than the one that we have here in Washington.
Well, there's a ringing endorsement. Rob?
Our old colleague Noah Frank once said, and I use this all the time, a close game does not necessarily mean a good game. And I think we're going to get one of those contests here because neither one of these teams is particularly good. Neither one has a real clear direction for their franchise. But it seems like the Giants, they've settled on their quarterback. They know who their quarterback is. They know what they're trying to do a little bit better than Washington does. And the fact that they're playing at home, I think also plays to their advantage. So as much as I hate to see Big Blue get a win here, based on what we've seen over the course of the last month, it just seems like they have a little bit more than Washington does right now.
All right, Cichon, I need a bull rush from you. Bring it home strong here.
Yeah,
Washington
the bull rush that Washington is in the top 10, at least in terms of adjusted sack rate. It's an advanced stat from Football Outsiders. That basically means they're getting to the quarterback, and I don't think the Giants' offensive line is anything special. I think Daniel Jones has proven to be somebody who is not going to be a superstar in this league. If you can get to him and get some pressure, he'll make mistakes. We saw that in the Pittsburgh Steelers game they played in on Monday night. I think Washington being 3-point dogs, I just would like to see whoever's in at quarterback, just try. You know your line's not going to be great, but just try and settle down a little bit and take a couple of shots. We saw Justin Herbert have the Chargers in the game against the Saints because he took shots down the field, adjust on what wasn't working against the Rams, play with more intensity. But I think these teams are basically pretty much even. I'm going Washington football team to get the victory this weekend. I don't really even know why. Maybe they just say, you know, we're tired of getting ripped on by guys in the media, those guys in the WTOP huddle. We're going to prove them wrong this week, and we get it done up in Jersey.
Yeah, we definitely need a different script for this show. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and vote for that 9:30 game. I like that window for this Giants-Washington team. All right, Chris, did you save us a pick if anybody's doing that wagering thing? Do you have a pick for this week?
Yes, we are going to keep it rolling here, 3-0 to start this year. We got the Cincinnati Bengals. They are now 8.5-point dogs against the Indianapolis Colts. I just think the Bengals, the Ravens were the worst team they could have played. The Ravens and their excellent defensive line. Bengals have a bad offensive line, but a team like Indianapolis, I don't think they're anything really that special. And Phillip Rivers looks worse and worse every week. It looks like he's throwing a boulder every time he steps back. I think the Bengals and Joe Burrow are able to keep this a one-score game, even win it potentially. So the Bengals 8.5+ is my pick.
All right. Well, guys, as always, this was a laugh a minute this week. Let's hope they do win against the Giants. This is not easy right now to try to sort out a Washington football team that needs sorting out, quite frankly. Cichon, Dave Preston, Rob Woodfork, George Wallace in the WTOP Huddle, and we thank you for your time in the huddle.
Break.